All right, hello everybody. This is the Shale and Downstream Lunch and Learn, and we have Paul Boulier as our presenter. Paul has over 40 years of experience leading manufacturing, chemical, and plastic companies. He's the former marketing officer at A. Schulman. He was in senior management roles at Avery Dennison, Nova Chemicals, and Core Molding Technologies. He was a mentor. He mentors entrepreneurs at Mercy Corp International and contributes to venture groups through the Akron Archangels organizations, WPI Business School, and Fusion Point Naples West Coast Venture Group. And he's got a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from
Worcester Polytechnic Institute.
Okay, because that's not how I was going to pronounce it. And he's got a master's degree in plastics engineering from UMass Lowell. And I will pass it on to Paul.
Well, thanks, Erica. I appreciate that, and thanks for having me here. And also wanted to thank all of our partners out there who are listening to this. So appreciate you, all the help that you've provided us over the years, and working with you in the future as we work together to build out this effort. So our objectives today, I'm going to focus on really three areas. Give an overview of shale and the downstream development. And for those of you who don't get some of the lingo, downstream is all of the manufacturing that's going to benefit from this opportunity. So all of you out there should be thinking about every manufacturer within your reach can benefit from shale and downstream. And also we're going to talk about why NEO in this region is advantaged from a competitive standpoint and how we're positioned to win. And also talk about some of the proactive work that Team NEO is doing in the region, but also outside the region, to get everybody to see this as a truly, as an opportunity to position this region as a global petrochemical powerhouse. So, and I'll talk a bit about some of the successes that we've had in the region, some of the ongoing activity, and also there's been a number of studies that will talk about the tremendous potential in terms of job creation, wealth, and investment in the region. I hope everybody will take away this as an opportunity. So that being said, go back, Erica, please. There you go. Nope. There, perfect. Thank you. So, one thing that people just think about this as kind of an opportunity for gas, but you should be thinking about three main opportunities that shale can bring to this region. So, and as I said earlier, it touches on every manufacturer here. So those of you working in metal fabrication, in plastics processing, people are making packaging, people that are making automotive products, aerospace components, all of these products that come from shale, all of these manufacturers will benefit. So if you look at that center box, that's basically the shale process, right? You're taking these materials out of the ground, but there are three kind of big streams that come from this. And the upper left-hand corner is around power. So you can use the natural gas to fuel electricity facilities right now. And currently there's 11 natural gas-fired power plants in the process of being built in Ohio right now. And it offers a number, because of a number of benefits. It's more cost-effective, reduce greenhouse gases, and it gives us the opportunity to develop flywheel power capability. The other one is fuel. So a lot of the gas that comes out can be compressed. So it can make fuel to power cars, to power boats, to power heavy trucks, a lot of that, and also to fuel a lot of the manufacturing processes that are here as well. So people that are into metal fabrication or all kinds of processes that require a lot of energy, they can use that as a fuel. The more complicated one, but I think the one that has a tremendous potential to leverage, our manufacturers to leverage here, is what's called these natural gas liquids. And these are building blocks, basically, if you think about them, that are blended into the gas. And as you take it out of the ground, they can be separated. And those become building blocks to make a variety of chemicals and plastics. So that they can go, if you look at to the far right, they go into making consumer products, medical devices, packaging, They also go into automotive components, aerospace components, and things like adhesives, paints, coatings, and etc. So if you think about all of the manufacturers in your footprint, wherever you live and wherever you work, they stand to benefit from this effort. So if we can go to our next slide. And why that's important is if you look at the demand drivers in the world right now, I think, you hear a lot in the news about where the U.S. stands and its position as a manufacturer in global growth. I mean, right now, because of shale gas, it's truly transformed our cost position as a region. But also, with the capabilities that we have in this region, when you have, nominally 4 to 5% global demand in all of the end-use markets that our region serves, I think it's just a tremendous opportunity. And if you put that in perspective right now, the NEO region has about a $240 billion gross regional product, okay? About 20% of that comes from manufacturing, and about 20% of that 20% is exported. So when you think about all the goods that are being manufactured in this region, that now you've got a transformative cost position, but also you've got sustainable supply, and also that we've got the benefit of some of the assets that I'll be talking about earlier, that I'll be talking about later in this discussion. We are truly advantaged to the rest of the world, and that's why I get excited about it, and I hope at the end of this discussion you will be as well. So a little complicated here, but this is where it comes from. So talking about these natural gases and downstream, so all these manufacturing industries. If you look at the 3 arrows on the left, that's around the whole exploration and production. So you're hearing about all of the shale and the mining and the pipelines, and you'll hear discussions around midstream. There's tremendous investment going on there, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but normally it's about $70 billion that's happened within the past 6 years here. That's 70 billion with a B, and that's in Ohio only. Then as you move across to the derivative chemicals and plastics, converters, and end products, you're looking at nominally about $200 billion of investment. That's nationally, but this is over, again, about a 6-year period. And in, my 40, I'm an old guy, so about 40 plus years in this industry, it is unprecedented, the speed and the magnitude of this investment in the U.S., and I would bar, any place else in the world. Now, when we go to the next slide, we'll talk about, and I'll just hint on it a little bit. You see those 2 boxes down on the corner. That really begins to break, or on the bottom of the chart, that really breaks out where this investment is going to come from, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on.
Hey, Paul, just real quick. I may have missed this, Paul. You can go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, in terms of the boom that was there like 7 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
the run-on properties, all that, I know that the pricing has caused a decrease in that, but is there an update here regarding that?
Yeah, sure. That's a little bit later on, but that's the 70 billion with a B over the past 5 years. So, to answer your question, though, I think that the issue then was this kind of everybody got on the shale tsunami, right? And saw that as an opportunity. It represented a land rush. But that got ahead of the pipeline capability and our ability to refine and export all of that stuff. Now, with all of the investment, that's $70 billion of investment that's been made over the past few years, that speed bump has been removed. So now that's what's driving a lot of this continued investment going forward. So, and if you look at this slide will in part answer that question. So if you look at the lower left-hand corner, it just shows, and if you were to dig into the details, this is a study Cleveland State did, just a tremendous amount of investment there. But if you look at the lower right-hand curve, that talks about the steady progress that's been made in all of the gas being exported out of the region, but then also a lot of these building blocks that are right now being exported out of the region, which we're trying to reverse and stimulate more investment to grow here. And if you look in the upper right-hand curve, just to show you how fast this is moving, and again, Camille, this relates to your question. Back in May of 2017, there was about $51 billion of investment done then. Cleveland State did another study at the end of the year, so this is 7 months later, and went up to 70 billion. So you're looking at a $19 billion incremental investment in Ohio only in a 7-month period. So that's showing now how this is really beginning to take off in a big way. And then, if you look at nationally, the two charts on the upper half of the curve, again, it shows going from essentially 0 7 years ago, and this is only investment incremental to shale and how it impacts the downstream industry. So this is only additive. You think about the manufacturing industry that exists nationally and in our region. This is all incremental. So now what you see is starting from, probably, so that's 11. So if you go 2011 till now, so a 7-year period, you're going from 0 incremental investment to $198 billion nationally investment. Just unprecedented. And when you think about all of the manufacturing that exists in this region that can benefit from it, it's tremendous. Now, if you look in the upper right-hand corner, there's not anybody that's listening to this right now that doesn't have a lot to do with plastics manufacturing and the downstream markets, the verticals that they serve. Automotive, aerospace, medical devices, food packaging, you name it. Chemistry and chemicals touch about 90% of all that's manufactured. So when you look at the underpinning and the transformative capability this has for the region, it's tremendous. So, and the American Chemistry Council tracks this all the time. There's a number of projects there. A couple that I think folks in our region are going to be most familiar with is the Shell polyethylene cracker that's going in Monaca, PA right now. $6 billion investment, going to ultimately take about 6,000 people to build it, 700 people to run it after it's built, and that's due to start up in 2021. As we all know also, PTTGC, a Thai-based company, is looking at even a larger investment potentially here in Ohio. So these, again, are, I would argue we haven't seen any investment that big in this region in a long time, even if you normalize it over whatever dollar value is over time. And if you look at NEO, one of the things that we looked at is from just over the past 5 years, from 2012 to 2017, just looked in Northeast Ohio. We've done in shale, primarily in downstream, because obviously you don't see a lot of people fracking here in mining, right? But we have all of the value add manufacturing that comes to shale is here. So if you look at that, what we went back and looked, and so far we've done 81 projects in our region. It's created, and that's in a 5-year period, 4,100 new jobs and $2.3 billion of investment, okay, in a 5-year period. So really quite, and if you look at, just as an aside, if you look at that, of those 81 projects, 60 of them are expansion projects. So for those of you in the economic development community that are thinking about this is all attraction, it's not. There's a lot of assets that you manage right now, that you're leading, that you're working with, that can benefit from this. So I would just say keep that on your radar as you move forward. And the next slide really underscores that. So these are companies with our research team at Team NEO. If you look in this region, and it's just shown in this map. We left out Philadelphia. We haven't included Detroit in this or anything else. This is really in this tri-state region. There are almost over 17,000 companies that exist here. Okay, and those are probably, I think, when we stopped the study, that's greater than $5 million in revenue. But if you also look in here, there's 250 large companies, and then you can see that Ohio has the majority of those. So we're really well positioned to help stimulate and grow and develop this effort. And if you look in the bottom part, it really gives you the breakdown. There are people that are making chemicals from this, people that are plastics converters, so people that are doing injection molding, blow molding, extrusion, making film, packaging products, medical devices, rubber manufacturers and converters, and the people that are making the base resins and the compounders who are value adding to those products. So tremendous capability there. And I'll explain the dotted oval in a minute. There's been probably 7 or 8 studies by major groups talking about the potential benefit this can bring to the region. This was done by American Chemistry Council. Studies have done by McKinsey and by IHS Markit, kind of major marketing terms right now. And I'll just take you to the 3 bullets on the bottom. So that permanent benefits and opportunities that can come from shale and downstream total about $35 billion in terms of capital. Direct output, the incremental revenue. So when you think about that, I said that, Ohio, if you look at Ohio state product is about, the gross state product is about $600 billion. And you're talking about adding almost $30 billion to that $600 billion. 30 billion with a B. And then also in terms of employment, both direct employment and then the subsequent downstream leveraged additive benefit in terms of indirect and payroll-induced jobs, it's the potential for 100,000 incremental jobs. And when you think about that and you say, boy, that seems like a lot, it's like I said, even just to build a Shell plant, it takes 7,000 people to build it, 700 people to operate it. So as you get a few of those big ones and then all of the other smaller related chemical converting and plastics converting and manufacturing capabilities, it's just tremendous. So what are we doing around that? One of the things that as we began to go out and meet with a number of companies working, it was clear that everybody thinks about when they talk about petrochemicals and plastics, they think about the U.S. Gulf Coast or they think about other places outside the U.S. And as we were going to meetings, we started to bump into and talk with a lot of our people that could argue they're competitors in the other states. I would argue that this is a great opportunity, and I didn't coin this term, but for co-opetition, really the thing that we need to be doing, and one of the things that we're trying to do is get this region on the map as a global petrochemical player. We have tremendous assets here, tremendous capabilities. Excuse me. And but I think people need to see the region as a player. So what we created, this was back in 2015, was the TriState Shale Coalition. So we had 4 founding members in that. Team NEO, the Benedum Foundation, which is a philanthropic group that services Pennsylvania and West Virginia, the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance and the Allegheny Conference, and then in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, and then Vision Shared and Economic Development Organization in West Virginia. And what we did at that time, got together and said we need to be developing a strategy and approach to get to promote this region and to try and identify speed bumps and barriers to its development and find a way to facilitate getting rid of those. So what we did is we also then felt that we needed a government involvement in this, because a lot of the transportation and infrastructure barriers that we see, you're not just going to do that necessarily through industry or through economic development. So what we did is we worked with the Governor Kasich's office, Governor Tomlin at the time in West Virginia, and Governor Wolf, and developed a cooperation agreement. So this is signed by each of the governors. We started that in 2015. We did a 3-year term, and we just renewed it in March of 2018 this year. So Governor Kasich, now Governor Justice, and Governor Wolf re-signed, keeping this agreement going. And it's about focusing in 4 streams. So looking at transportation and infrastructure issues in the region, looking at how do we market and promote the region, what can we do to understand from a regional perspective workforce challenges and develop solutions to those, and then how do we look at research, innovation, and commercialization across the region. So when we cooperate in terms of sharing that bigger picture and that bigger capability with international companies or domestic companies looking to expand, it's very compelling. Then once the opportunities come, every state is going to do its thing and compete respectively. But I think it's more important right now to get people looking at this as a region, looking at the collective strengths of that and the collective capabilities for us to help them expand and grow. One thing that we did is we organized, as it relates to transportation and infrastructure, developed an Appalachian storage hub study, because a question was always coming up and an objection for people outside the region, well, how do you store this stuff? You know, I mean, yeah, we appreciate it's all coming out of the ground. So one of the things that we did is we got a mix of public companies and private companies to fund a $200,000 study. And it was a collaboration between Ohio's Geological Survey, Pennsylvania's Geological Survey, and West Virginia's Geological Surveys to bring to really study what exists underground and the capabilities of the region and to map that out. And the next slide shows that there are actually 3 very strong regions to store in this region right now. And, you know, one of them is up in Northeast Ohio. I won't get into the geology of this because it's way above me, but suffice it to say that there are 3 very strong areas that as this opportunity builds out, we have the capability to get tremendous storage. And what that does is it creates options for companies to mitigate risk as they look to expand here, but it also gives an opportunity for companies to manage costs better and compared to other parts of the United States as well as other parts of the world. Next slide. So as it relates to marketing the region, one of the things that we've done, you know, over the course of the 3 years is use this bigger platform from the TriState Shale Coalition to manage the regional value proposition going forward. And we've done that in a number of venues, both inside the region and outside the region. You can read them all there in terms of the national platforms that we take advantage of to promote this capability going forward. And we also did a site, I know we shared it with a number of folks. We did an intelligence report for Site Selector magazine that talks about the Tri-State Shale Coalition in January. And I know a lot of you, and we appreciate your partners out there, the interest that you've shown in that, because I think that's a very helpful tool to help you illustrate what's going on here. And now we're also working with an outside firm right now. One of the challenges that we have is, you know, you can call it, depending on where you live, you can call it Appalachia, you can call it Appalachia, you can call it a tri-state region. People still don't have a good feel for what to call this region. So one of the things that we've also done is worked with Jobs Ohio and the states to fund, for us to work with and hire a marketing firm to really look at, and we've gone out and done dozens of interviews with companies that have the potential to expand and grow in the region to really figure out and sort out what a name is that we can call this region that'll resonate with prospective companies looking to expand and grow here. So more to come on that in probably the coming weeks as we move forward. What we've also done is worked and developed a memo of understanding between 4 universities at this point, soon to be more, and the 4 are Case Western, Carnegie Mellon, Penn State, and Ohio State, to really look at building a map and a matrix of their capabilities so that people can see the innovation potential that we have in this region to support companies doing major expansion here. Because for them to grow, the more they know that we can backstop and support their applied research and help them develop new markets and applications. That's always another selling point. And it really, when you look at some of the, you'll see in a later slide that, you know, frankly, I'd put our capabilities up here from an educational perspective against anybody in the world right now. And then also around workforce, this has created the start of an organization called the TEAM Consortium. So the TEAM stands for Tri-State Energy and Advanced Manufacturing Consortium. And that's an effort right now. It's an alliance between about 40 2-year, 4-year schools to develop how do we establish the curriculum, but more importantly, how do we show the complementary capabilities each of these schools have to support training and developing the workforce of the future, because that's going to be a big challenge and frankly one that I think we're advantaged in. And then the last bullet there really talks about one of the things that we've done is since we've created this organization, we've held annual summits that we really just talk about, okay, here's what we said we were going to do, here's what we've done, and use it as a networking and also marketing platform for the region. So we'll be doing one of those in the latter part of this year, probably early December is what the game plan is right now. So all that being said is that, you know, when we talk about how do we promote the value proposition for this region going forward, if you look at, we'll go clockwise from clockwise from 2 o'clock. So 70% of demand in these areas for manufacturing and products is within a day's drive. So you have proximity to market. As I said, 20% of what's produced in this region and the state is exported. So, barring whatever happens with tariffs and all of the discussion around that, we're adding tremendous value because we're on the downstream manufacturing side. So we're in a position of strength in terms of how these products are going to be held and the value that they bring to people. I'll talk a little bit later about skilled labor and higher education and why I think that's a competitive advantage for us in this region. We have, really a focused supply chain. So for all of you on the phone and all of you that are here right now, you think about all of the suppliers, converters, end users, brand owners that live in this region. It's just a tremendous strength. And then, of course, we have the benefit of having a great road system, great rail system. Part of the reason that you have Shell and PTT looking also in this region for big investments, and a lot of people don't make light of it, is the fact that we have a lot of fresh water here, but also the fact that we have the river system here to move a lot of these big products going forward. So we're really a strongly advantaged compared to a lot of other parts of the country. So, so how does the region stack up? I'm just going to pick a couple of areas. One of them I've already talked about. Okay, proximity to market. When in running businesses, and if you're running a big international business, it's always about how do I mitigate risk around customers. And guess what? They're all here. They're all here. They're all within a day's drive. So if you're an international company like Shell, or you're an international company like PTT, what better way to do that is make a big investment in an area where you've got a lot of customers, and now the low cost and plentiful supply of these feedstocks have you going in a much stronger position to develop a relationship with them. And then also, when you talk about a talent pool, we did a study here at Team NEO, and it talks about, you'll see the tech belt in green. So that's kind of I'll go back to one of the earlier slides that show this piece of the 3 states that are all together. And what we compared is the percentage of workers from the United States, the tech belt, the Philadelphia region, and also Houston. And when you look at this in the upper left-hand corner, you see the percentage of the workforce employed in chemical manufacturing compare very well with them, probably a little bit less than Houston, but still very competitive. If you look at the workforce in upper right in fabricated metal products, better concentration here, and I would argue probably better concentration than anyone in the world. The same goes when you look at plastic and rubber manufacturing. Again, we've got such a tremendous asset in the people that are here, and this is in the incumbent workforce, okay? Incumbent workforce, so people that are trained, well-educated, and can land running. And then the next slide, when you look at what comes out of our colleges and universities that exist in the region, because these are all disciplines, chemical engineering, industrial engineering, material science, material engineering. These are all areas that when we compare ourselves versus Houston, just hands down, we're way ahead of them. And then the last slide that we'll talk about is when you start to map these out. So anybody looking to grow in this region, when you look at the 2-year and the 4-year schools and all of the trade associated things here, and it's just a rich, robust backstop, and also something that, as I said earlier, with the team consortium and a lot of the efforts that Jobs Ohio does, and we do a Team NEO around workforce, it's all about enriching that and making sure that we're sensitive to what the demands are for this sector as it develops, but then also to keep and build and nurture a robust pipeline going forward. So I would put those up against everybody. So that being said, I'll say thank you, Erica, and thanks to everybody for your time and attention. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Erica. She'll answer them all. Or no, to me. I think probably most of you on the line have my name and number, and happy to provide any help that we can do with you in the future. So thanks for your time.